Well, good morning. I'm going to take a little time this morning and show you an experiment that I did with some shallots. For those of you that aren't aware of what shallots are similar to onions. You plant a single shallot and they'll divide. That's why you see in these clumps, they'll divide into multiples. And what I did in my experiment is I planted a row of the biggest shallots that I had, and I planted a couple other rows of the smaller shallots that I had. And what I was comparing was the amount of yield based upon what I was planting. So if you look, this was all one clump that had come apart. They were clumps just like these here. In the clump, you see this littler one here. This little guy would have been the size that I would have planted for the small ones. And this big one on the end here is what I would have planted, kind of the size for the bigger ones. So if you looked at them side by side. Now, the big ones ended up creating these really big, nice clumps with real large, nice shallots. Now I'm going to show you over here what the smaller ones did. The smaller ones, as they divided, mostly just divided into two, like these. They're decent sized shallots. Some of them just got larger, like this one here. It's huge. It's probably the biggest shallot I have this year, but all the shallot did was just get bigger. It never divided. So what's interesting about this is different shallots react in different ways. These clumps, for the little shallots that I put in, you know, they're decent. But the thing that you want to keep in mind is all of these shallots, whether it's these smaller ones or whether it's those bigger ones, the bigger clumps, they all were on the same spacing. So I put them in at 6 by 9. There was 9 inches between the rows on a 6-foot wide bed, and there was 6 inches between the plants in the row. So they were 9 by 6. So really, if you think about it, if you were to plant, this is kind of the average here. If I take this over here, if you were to choose whether or not you're going to plant a little shallot or a big shallot, which harvest would you rather have in a 6 by 9 area? Okay, I actually thought that the smaller ones were going to do better. And the reason why is I have other varieties that it's actually the opposite. For some reason, even though there'd be more energy in the big one, you'll plant a big one and you get a whole bunch of tiny ones. You plant a small one and you get a nice clump of big ones. So the reason I'm taking you through this is for you to understand that you really need to trial things. You need to experiment to answer questions so that you can become more productive. So from now on with this variety, I'm going to plant the biggest. And next year, Lord willing, my harvest will be greater because I will have larger clumps per every 6 by 9 rather than just a small clump in a 6 by 9. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it makes sense to you what I did here. And, you know, never stop being inquisitive in gardening. Never stop wanting to learn, because about the time you think you really have it all figured out, you're missing something. So everybody have a good day and God bless you. Bye-bye.